Hello and welcome to Scoutcast, brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and we are also joined by Rich Flapjack. How is it going?
Yeah, very, very well. Very well. Not looking forward to the football tonight, but looking forward to the podcast at least.
Yeah, we've got a non-Kane owner and a Kane owner, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I do own him. He's just
Oh,
firmly on my bench.
oh,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. I didn't know that, actually. I wasn't being horrible. And obviously, we're missing Seb tonight. He's got a horrible case of pink eye, apparently. So he won't be on tonight. No, he has it. He's got conjunctivitis, I think. But we miss
Same
him,
thing,
obviously.
isn't it?
Yeah, same thing, yeah. Sorry, I'm just laughing at an image there of how he got it. Anyway, God, this has taken a turn already, hasn't it? We're back tonight. Obviously, I am now in control again, which is lovely. So we didn't have an awkward intro. Well, a less awkward intro, I would say. We've both got the football on in the background because obviously we're cheering on Kane / not cheering on Kane. But we've had an interesting week. We obviously have just started double game week 29. It is still going on at the moment. We've still got some fixtures to come midweek, and there is a game tonight, which is Spurs versus Everton. But we're going to start looking a little bit further afield as well and see if we can start planning a little bit further. We are going to have a look at our points and how we've gotten on so far. And you can see on the screen, our ranks are looking okay at the moment, both in the top 50k. I think Seb is a little bit... Is he in between us or is he a little bit lower than me now? I can't remember.
I would need to check. I can't check very fast though. Hold on, I'm going to find out right now. I should know this.
Yes, all right.
72k.
72k, so that's not too bad. So we're almost all in the top 50k, which is pretty good for this type of season, to be honest. So we're going to look at our points. We are going to talk about Haaland, because I think talking about Haaland is something that we all need to do. We all need to have that discussion with ourselves anyway. So we're going to be talking about Haaland and whether we should be getting him back or not. And obviously, with the fact that they don't have another fixture in the Premier League now until the weekend, it's a good one to be able to talk about. We're going to look at the best blank game week 32 players, so the players that seem to be performing the best up to blank game week 32, and then we're also going to be looking at a potential blank game week 32 free hit and how close we need to kind of get to that free hit. Then we're going to be looking at the best players with the most fixtures left, and also going to be looking at our teams, our best teams, going to talk very quickly about the community team and then do our questions as well from the community. We are aware that because the football's on tonight, the chat might be a little bit quieter than it normally is. But if it is, that just means you get an intimate night with me and Rich, which is what I know you've all been wanting anyway. So let's have a look at the points. Here we go then. Oh no, have I not been talking? Hang on. Oh, I hope I have.
I can hear you on the stream.
Oh, good. Lovely. Oh, is it you they can't hear? Hang on. Hopefully they can hear you as well.
I can hear you on the stream. Yeah, they can. I can hear both of us.
Good. Got really worried then. So looking at the points then. So I had Kepa in goal, who got me 1 point. I brought in Shaw, who got me 1. Yeah, audio's fine, they said. That's good. Trippier, it got me 12. Obviously, he's just a machine this year, isn't he? Stupinan with 1. Maddison with 2. Rashford with 2. Matoma, who was my captain. I had a real dilemma whether to go Matoma or Rashford. I just love the idea of going Rashford and having all of my players, being able to cheer on all of my players. But I really thought Matoma was going to get more points. So I went with it. I went with Matoma, who I thought was going to get me more points. And at the moment he has. Whether he plays the second game, obviously we're not sure of yet, but we'll wait to see. But Rashford did blank in that game against Newcastle. So at the moment, it's turned out okay. Brighton could have had 7 or 8 goals, by the way, against Brentford. Absolutely ridiculous. Raya got 6 points, even though he conceded 3 goals, which tells you everything, really. McAllister got 6, Saka 1, Watkins 8, and Tony 9, which is lovely from a front line. And then I also played my bench boost. Raya got me 6 so far. Botman got me 7 so far. Kane is playing tonight, and Zinchenko got me 2. So to be honest, quite happy with the bench boost so far. I played Saka because I thought Saka was going to get more points than Botman. That's literally why I played him. Absolutely gutted coming up to deadline when we heard the rumours that Saka might be benched. I didn't want to believe that he would be, so I didn't move him. Not that I didn't want to believe. I didn't want to trust somebody that was just on a stream somewhere, if that makes sense. And if I had have moved him, I'd have priced myself out of getting Haaland for free next week, which I really didn't want to do. But we're going to talk tonight about whether I should have done that anyway. But 72 points, which is 68 after the -4, and I'm up to 49k from I think it was about 75k. So I'm very happy with that so far.
You're
Rich.
flying. You're flying. And I was having a little bet in my own head. I thought you would go back to Rashford because you said you would.
Yeah.
I bet you're glad you didn't so far.
So far, I am. The problem is Rashford's nicest fixtures next, which is Brentford at home, and there's a lot of De Zerbi saying a lot of stuff saying that people need to be rested, and it's whether he rests Matoma for the next fixture. But we'll see. Bournemouth away is tricky. That's the thing. Like, he can't put out a really weak team because. Well, we'll see. We'll get to that in a minute anyway. But I'm happy so far. How did your team go, Rich? Because we had different captains, and neither of us went for Rashford.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was quite negative last week, wasn't I? I said I'm going to get a huge red arrow, and so far, obviously, I haven't got Kane playing.
Yeah,
I'm on a green, and I'm shocked that I'm on a green. But I'm on 71 -4. I'm a little bit annoyed. I had the same thing as you with the Saka news. I decided to bring Salah in over Bruno for Ward-Prowse, and obviously I was delighted with that. And I had thought very briefly about doing Saka to Bruno for a hit. And I just thought it's not worth it. I want Saka. Saka at home to Leeds. When the news came through, I just did it. I did the hit for Bruno. Obviously, it's not paid off yet. Maybe it will. My preferred Haaland route was already blocked because I decided to go for Salah over Bruno.
Yeah.
I mean, not ideal, but 71 points -4. So somehow I'm on 67 without my bench boost. I captained McAllister, so I feel like the last 2 weeks I've been quite lucky with those literally last minute penalties, Ward-Prowse, and then I've had McAllister this week. So yeah, I'm getting used to those, although they're quite nervy when they happen. I couldn't even watch it.
You're a bit unlucky as well because he probably should have had a penalty in the last minute as well. And then he got booked because he was complaining about it. Like, that could have been a massive haul for you.
It could have been. And also, I mean, it sounds unbelievable, although I did tell you that I did have Trippier captain on Friday night for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So but it was more because I didn't think there was a standout captain option this week.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a negative with every single person. There was doubts over Rashford's minutes, doubts over the Brighton minutes because the players who went on international duty. Salah, his fixtures weren't great. Tony obviously could have got booked and then missed another game. So I did start thinking about a defender, and I didn't have a Stupinan. So I mean, if someone's gone Trippier, they're going to be pretty happy, happy right now, and that looks like the winning captain probably.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to sound like hindsight, but I was saying this in chats all week. That United fixture against Newcastle, like it genuinely was the reason I went with Matoma in the end, because I was almost going to not bring in any United. I ended up bringing in Shaw because I thought that game could be 0-0. And then obviously they've got the Brentford game next. It almost looked the week, like obviously they had the double game week, but it looked like next week was the week to invest in United. So it was really tough bringing them in this week. But obviously, it's easy saying that now, and against Brentford, it could go wrong, couldn't it? Like they could absolutely haul against Brentford, but we'll see. But
it was never going to... I never felt like with Casemiro out that was going to be an easy fixture. Yeah. I saw some people say that about the League Cup final, but obviously Newcastle are at home in this fixture. That was at Wembley, so I feel like it's slightly different.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But
and Bruno did play deep as well. Like everybody said, oh, he's not going to play deep. Look, it's the team sheets come out and he's playing in the 10, but it just happened as soon as a game is out of control, and it was against Newcastle, like they were completely controlled against us. He just naturally drops to it deep. Rooney used to do it all the time as well. Like he used to feel like he had to drop deep because he feels like he's the most creative player in the team, and they do it, don't they? They do drop deep because they feel like they can then grasp control of the game. And of course, that's not where we want him as assets, is it?
Not really. Not at that price tag as well. And I think he's going to be. This is why I'm a bit annoyed I've got him, because while it's nice to have, he feels like, I don't want to be offensive here, he feels like quite an expensive Ward-Prowse. Like he plays for a better team, but then he doesn't have the amazing direct free kicks. So, I mean, he's now going to haul, isn't he, in the second game? But
well, that's the thing as well, is that Brentford at home, with how Brentford are away from home as well, is a very different fixture to Newcastle away. So there is every chance if you've got those United boys. Like this happened last time we had the double game week with Brighton as well, wasn't it? But it happened the other way around. Brighton and Brentford didn't do anything in the first fixture, but then did lovely stuff in the next fixture. This time, the Brighton boys have returned, and so have the Brentford boys as well, some of them. And obviously the United lads haven't. So it could just all change around in the next fixture anyway.
It probably will. I saw someone in the chat last week. I don't want to call them out, but they said that Bruno Fernandes is a double game week specialist. And I was thinking, is that actually a thing?
He thinks about it. He thinks about it before he goes on the pitch. Yeah. But Salah, I did like that move. Because you're going to want Salah later on. And you just don't have to think about it now, do you? You've got him. But you did block Haaland, which we're going to go on to now.
That's the worry. And I think that's going to be the main topic for the week, isn't it?
It is. Because obviously he's got Southampton away. Southampton are the worst team of the league. Comfortably, I would say as well. They are, rooted at the bottom of the table. Haaland was, by the sounds of things, he was quite close to returning this weekend, but he didn't. But he was doing the Poznan in the crowd, jumping up and down, so he can't be too bad. But obviously he's got Southampton next. Everybody's plan move was going to be Tony to Haaland. If Tony gets booked as well, I mean, it looks like even more of a sensible move. But we're going to have a little bit of a look now at Haaland and think, do we really want to be getting him in, considering there are midfield options for City now that are looking pretty good and are looking more value for money? And is Haaland the player that we were thinking he was at the beginning of the year, if that makes sense? Because I've got up on the screen now Haaland stats from post-World Cup. So this is not thinking about XG in all of the expected stats. This is literally just output. So this is the minutes he's played in the Premier League and all the fixtures he's been in and the goals he's scored. Now, if you look here, he has either got 1 goal or 0 goals in the Premier League since the World Cup, apart from a hat-trick against Wolves, where he still only played 61 minutes. Then, is this post-World Cup? That seems like a lot of games. Is that too many games? Or no, it's about right, isn't it? It does seem like too many, doesn't it?
They played a lot of games, yeah.
They have. But he did score 5 goals against Leipzig in the Champions League, and he scored 3 goals against Burnley in the FA Cup as well. So you're looking at it here, and I'm wondering why we're all so worried about him in terms of there are better assets out there at the moment. Obviously, it's the damage he can do, but we're piling all of this on top of the fact that he might not be fit. Their fixtures are piling in like mad at the moment. They have a deputy who is doing incredibly well in Alvarez, who, by the way, looked brilliant at the weekend. So he is probably not as essential now as he has been throughout the rest of the season, is he?
It's tough.
You don't want to say, do you?
Do you know what? If it was a game where I was just playing on my own, it wasn't against millions of other people, and EO wasn't a thing, I think I'd find it quite easy to go without him because, like you say, they've got so many fixtures. He's just coming back from an injury. They're going to be prioritising those Bayern games, but then it can absolutely destroy your season. I mean, look at what my rank was. Where a few months ago, I was hovering around 800k, and that was owning Haaland. I just wasn't captaining him as frequently as some other people might be. So as part of, a game where the EO is a thing, he can absolutely destroy you in 1 week.
Yeah.
More realistically, he's not going to score 5 goals. He's not going to score 3 goals. The most likely outcome is probably he scores a goal. Yeah. I think his minutes will be managed. I think, like, you look at the last couple of games where he's played like 60-ish. That seems to be, I'd anticipate 60 or 30. Something like that. Obviously, ironically, in those 2 60-minute appearances, he scored 5 goals and 3 goals.
Yeah.
But it's Leipzig and Burnley, more importantly. And while Burnley are flying in the Championship, you still have to remember it is Burnley in a cup game. So I don't know. I'm not that worried about blocking him.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, would you rather have Kane, who you know is going to get 90 minutes, or would you rather have Haaland?
It's tough because obviously Haaland's got the double, but then most people are going to be free hitting in that double anyway, aren't they?
34. No, see, I think most people will be.
Sorry, I was thinking 32. Sorry, yeah.
Most people will probably be free hitting in 32. Yeah. But then most people are going to have Haaland by the time the doubles roll around in 34 and 37.
I don't think I like the idea of what you did, which was blocking him completely. I don't think I like that.
He's not completely blocked, though. I can do Kane to Haaland.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it Kane? And that was my plan move if potentially in 32 or 33, because Kane's fixtures take a bit of a turn then. And obviously, you can then keep Haaland till the end. But I'm looking at it and thinking there are some other City assets that are doing really well at the moment, aren't there? Like even players like Grealish, Foden's out, so Mahrez is back in with a shout. Like there's other assets I'm thinking, even De Bruyne, probably not De Bruyne. He's probably kind of, if you're going to pay out for De Bruyne, you get Haaland anyway. But
Yeah, agree with that.
I'm just looking at it and thinking, you could swerve him. You could swerve him now, couldn't you?
I think the key though is this week, and part of the reason why I was willing to block him is I don't think there's going to be any kind of news where he's a captain option this week.
Yeah.
I know there was always captain Haaland, but we genuinely don't know his minutes. Even if he starts, he could literally get 45 minutes as a warm up for the Bayern Munich game. Obviously, he could still pull.
Yeah.
But would you actually feel comfortable captaining him?
And also, if you're thinking about where you are in your rank, like I think I saw a stat the other day that said there's about 1.5, maybe 2 million people that are still active. Is that right? And if you think
Sounds
they're all
about
going
right.
to be quite high up, I would guess that most people in the top kind of 200 to 150k wouldn't have Haaland anyway. But if you're battling around the kind of 700k mark or something like that, there's going to be more Haaland people around you, isn't there? I would have thought, because they kind of kept him, or I don't know. It's really tough. I wouldn't want to be going forward without any Man City because of their doubles and what they've got coming up and the fixtures. But if you don't get Haaland, who else do you get?
Yeah, I guess, there's going to be a lot of people, and I could have been one of them. You are one of them, where if Tony gets booked, midweek, and you've got the money just to do him to Haaland, you might as well just do it, even if you're not going to captain him, because we're all going to get him in.
Yeah.
It's just a case of when you get him back. Can you delay it a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I suppose I'm thinking you're not going to get him at all, whereas you're going to get him at some point, aren't you?
Yeah, he's definitely going to come back in unless he gets injured. So I think it's just a case of when you do it.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be captaining him, I think it's less pressing.
That's a good point. And it's the captaincy that's a big thing there, because if you're not going to really captain him, others aren't really going to be captaining him, and then the damage against you is less, isn't it?
Exactly, it's less of a risk. But it really does depend. I just can't see a world where he plays 90 minutes.
No. I mean,
that's not going to happen.
You've segued this in beautifully for me now, Rich, where I've brought up here Lego Mane's fixture list, and you can see here how many rest days there are between fixtures. Man City right at the top there, brilliant for us. You can see how many games they have coming up and the rest days they have between them. So basically, the fixtures are in black or grey. Grey if it's not in the Premier League, black if they are. If it's red, that means there is only 2 days between the two fixtures. So 2 rest days or 2 training days, whatever you want to call it. Yellow is there's 3, and green is there's more than 3, basically. If you have a look here, there's going to be 5 days between Man City's game here and Southampton, which they do on Saturday. Then there's 2 games before Bayern, 3 games before Leicester, which is in the Premier League, 3 games when they play Bayern again. So Leicester's right in between those 2 Bayern games, which is definitely going to be their priority. Then there's 2 games before Sheffield United, then 3 before Arsenal, and Arsenal you would have thought would be a massive priority. Then there's 3 before Fulham, then 2 before West Ham, and then 3 before Leeds. Where is he going to play? Trying to work out here when Haaland is going to play between now and Gameweek 35 is ridiculously difficult. If that first Bayern fixture, which they're at home in the first leg, he's going to be playing in that game. If that game's close, he's going to be playing in the next leg. He's not going to be playing against Leicester with 3 games and 3 games between those 2 fixtures. Surely he's not going to be playing then. And then there's Sheffield United. He played against Burnley, didn't he? So could he play against Sheffield United? And then he's got Arsenal. He's definitely going to play that one. And then Fulham and West Ham, he's going to miss one of those because there's 2 games rest between them. And then Leeds and 3 games after that. It's an absolute minefield trying to work out Haaland. This is trying to work out a player that is already maybe a little bit injured and has important games in between. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's something to be said for just ignore him and don't have to worry about it, isn't there?
This reminds me a lot of, do you remember before game week 1, we were saying, that he might not play every game, he will get rested. I think the difference here is obviously Pep wants to do well in the Champions League. He's just coming off this injury as well. I think once I get him back, and I will get him back within the next 3 game weeks, maybe within the next 4 game weeks, I'll get him back and then I won't be selling him again. I'll just keep him. And there could even be an argument in some weeks, like when they've got the doubles, just to captain him. Yeah. And even if you he doesn't get full minutes. We've seen what he can do in less minutes. I think the dilemma though is you could delay getting him.
Yeah. And
I think that's the only real dilemma. I think once you get him, you're not going to be selling him.
I mean, the next 2 weeks are nice, aren't they? On paper, Southampton and Leicester. But that Bayern game, like, so for that Leicester at home to be sandwiched right in between those. And I've already mentioned Alvarez is doing incredibly well. Like, when Alvarez plays, he's having a great season. Obviously, won the World Cup as well. So he's having an all right season. You just look at it thinking, if you did block yourself out, I mean, we're saying all this. If Tony did get booked, where else would you be going? If you didn't go for Haaland?
Well, you could go to Solanke. There is also
Yeah.
the option that I've looked at. There's a lot of people who are going to have a Brighton midfielder bench this week against Tottenham.
Yeah.
You could just, I know Tony would be banned for two, he potentially two as a minimum games. You could just play your Brighton midfielder who's on the bench for a week and then reassess. Or you could go to Isak, although obviously their double's not for a while, so I'd probably delay that. So there's not many places to go.
It's tough. Isn't it?
You can tell by the pause there.
Yeah.
There's not many places to go, but you could bench Tony for a week.
Yeah. And if we're doing a balanced argument here as well. There was a reason everybody had planned in this move to go back to Haaland. We just didn't expect him to not be fit for the Liverpool game. We all thought we'd be hard and be on our sofas for that Liverpool game, which we would have been as well, because they looked absolutely brilliant. Whether there's a case to say they looked brilliant because Haaland wasn't playing is something for another day. But you're looking at this and just thinking, I think they came out and said they think he's probably going to be fit for the Southampton game, which is obviously good to hear.
It's Pep though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully trust Pep.
I
mean,
think
if you've got an easy move like I think it's a no-brainer. If it looks like he's going to be involved in any way, just do it, especially if Tony's banned. But I'll put it to you, would you swap Kane, who's got he's got Brighton at home, then he's got Bournemouth away, I believe?
Yeah.
Would you swap Kane to go for a minute's risk Haaland?
No, I wouldn't. Not with the next two fixtures, because I in terms of how many minutes I think Haaland's going to play against Southampton and Leicester, I mean, I think I'd be happy if I got 100 minutes out of those two games. Whereas Kane, is getting 180. It's after that, really. It's after you get past 31 where you start thinking, between 32, 33. Well, 32 he's not playing, so it's free hit, so it doesn't matter. And that's the thing. If he's only getting that Southampton game and you're thinking he's going to get potentially rotated in 31 and he doesn't play in 32 anyway, it's a lot of money to put on a player you're only getting about 120 minutes from, isn't it?
Yeah, plus it's away, and I think that makes a big difference with City. I think that I'd be more worried about the Leicester game in 31 if I'm looking at Haaland.
And that's
obviously
the one
it's
I don't
still sandwiched between them.
Yeah.
That's probably the week I'd look at captaining Haaland. If I bought him in, I could probably justify it because I could captain.
Yeah.
Because it's at home. And we've seen Man City struggle against Southampton before.
Yeah. And then in 33, home to Arsenal. But then in 34, it's away to Fulham and home to West Ham. And then home to Leeds in 35. That seems sensible. That seems absolutely lovely, getting them in 34.
I mean, if you go into the double, I guess we're not, even if we're suggesting delaying Haaland, we're not suggesting going into the double without him. I think in 34, you'll be absolutely mad, even if there's some risk.
So maybe we're looking at it wrong in terms of who would you get if you didn't get him? You've used the money already in terms of getting Bruno, Salah, and you've got Kane. Is it a better idea to have somebody like Salah for game week 30, game week 31? Obviously, if you're not free hitting in 32, that's even, you get an extra fixture there as well. Is it better to use that money to get a Salah or a Bruno Fernandes than it is to get Haaland at the moment? I'm asking you some tough questions.
I was about to say, you are. I mean, no, it's a good question. I think I'm obviously a lot more biased to Salah than some people. Like I felt like if I didn't get Salah in this week, while they've got a double, I'm just going to end up wanting him every week, and it was going to be a struggle to get him. So I just ripped the plaster off and went for it. I think now, obviously they've got Arsenal, isn't it? The next game's against Arsenal.
Yeah.
But I'd probably prioritise Haaland. Not to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'd go that way. But obviously I'm not going to sell Salah and go for Haaland, because that would be ridiculous. I've got Salah from now till basically the end of the season. I don't think he's going to leave.
Seeing you've got Salah and you're not going to have Haaland, which means you've got the player that plays in 32 and you swerve the player that isn't playing in 32. You could be gearing up to not use your free hit in 32, could you?
Well, that's another thing. I'm
Ooh.
probably looking at not free hitting in 32. So that's gone into my thinking as well, and I could still adapt it. But it is a key point, I guess, to think about, because someone could bring in Haaland and they've just brought in, I don't know, Shaw or Bruno this week, and they could still avoid game week 32 free hit.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely worth looking at as well.
Yeah.
If you can preserve the free hit, which is looking actually like a pretty useless chip at the moment.
Yeah.
If you properly look at it, I don't think there's going to be a huge game from it unless there's some serious injuries.
Yeah, it's and I know we've been chatting an awful lot about potentially not using free hit in game week 32. I think this is the week now going into game week 30 where you have to think about whether you're free hitting in game week 32. I think this is now, because you've got 2 more transfers, I think this is the week where you've got to say, right, am I 100% free hitting in 32 or not? Because that's the kind of dilemma I'm in at the moment, is if I bring in Haaland and I lose someone like Tony, I'm kind of saying to myself I'm going to free hit in 32. But if I don't, and I swerve and maybe go down to a Solanke, and then I get Salah in for 31 when Liverpool play, is it Leeds? No. When they play, yeah, it is Leeds away.
Yeah, Leeds.
I think that's when I start building for 32 then. And I make sure I have my 2 Liverpool boys, and I've obviously used those funds. I've swapped it all round. Yeah, I think that's what people might start doing. And I know we've been talking about it quite a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, there is even a route where you could, I mean, obviously it's team dependent, where you could roll this week, not go for Haaland, and then reassess next week if you're going to free hit or not. Because then what you could do is you could even do like next week, you could do Kane to Haaland and then do Haaland back to Kane if you're not free hitting in 32.
Yeah.
So you could even be looking at like hokey cokies here right now. You could even do something like that with Bruno and Salah. Like if you've sold Saka, if you sold Saka for Bruno, you could get to 31. You could do Bruno back to Saka. You get a slightly better fixture in 31, and then you've got him for obviously 32, and you don't free hit.
Yeah.
So I think there's nothing wrong with flip flopping, chasing your tail, basically.
And also, another reason why game week 34 could be a bit nicer for free hit, that fixture congestion between game week 32 and game week 34. Almost every team has 3 to 4 fixtures between game week 32 and 34, which means, potential injuries, rotation, all that kind of stuff that we've got to think about. So I think, I don't know, I'm edging towards game week 34 to do it. But I think if I am doing that and I'm not free hitting in 32, I think it makes way too much sense to swerve Haaland. I really do. If I'm expecting him to play against Southampton, could take a hit there. But then against Leicester, I don't expect him to play. And then he's not playing in 32 anyway. Yeah.
I honestly, I think that's why I said earlier, if we were just playing like a game on our own, it would be a lot easier. I think it would make the most sense to actually just not go for Haaland.
Yeah. But
obviously, we're very happy with our green arrows recently. But literally, if we don't go for Haaland, and he absolutely hauls at 140% EO or something, our ranks could literally quadruple.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not to put the life of God in us, but it's a reality. If he scores 3 or 4 goals in his limited minutes.
I know, and that's the thing. You think he played 61 against Wolves and he got a hat trick?
Yeah, but it's an if though, isn't it? Like he's flanked many, many times. He's got just 6 points many, many times as well.
Yeah. Well, moving on. So we've spoken about Haaland there for a good half hour.
And we're still not sure. It sounds like we're leaning towards not going for him.
I am, I think.
But I'm not against Kane to Haaland. But it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like I'm gaining anything. It just feels like I'm protecting something.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel good for the next 2 weeks. I feel like with players like Haaland, and I think people did this at the beginning of the year and it was the wrong time to do it. But they are the type of player you can go against, if that makes sense. And people did it 2 weeks ago, not knowing he was going to be injured against Liverpool. But people did it 2 weeks ago. And I feel like these next 2 weeks could still be times where you could do it. That's the thing. I feel like this could be a time to go against him. And I think losing Kane to gain Haaland in these next 2 weeks probably isn't the move. I feel like it would be, don't get Haaland, but get someone like Salah. I feel like is a better move. But I could be so wrong there. And it could be coming back to haunt me.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, we look at last week. I guess the risk we took when we captained Saka, for example, I know Seb did it as well. looking at EOs, like Kane was 150% EO.
Yeah.
So it was a big risk, but then it really, really did pay off as well.
Yeah.
So
Same
I
this
guess
week.
if you want to make a big jump, avoiding players can be good as well.
Yeah.
That could have gone very, very wrong. It's probably the similar kind of risk. Just
I
maybe
agree.
Kane's ceiling's not as high as Haaland, although they're playing the same team. I mean, Kane was against Southampton,
Yeah.
and this Haaland fixture will be against Southampton as well.
Interesting. Food for thought, anyway. So let's move on to the players that are going to be playing in blank game week 32. Now, this is thinking about people that might be free hitting in game week 32 or people that are building towards game week 32, because these are the players that have been impressing us the most at the moment. Obviously, there's another 2 game weeks until we get there, but it's good to have these players in your mind. We've got Jesus, who is top of the table, actually, in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement. Now, obviously, that's because he has only had 4 starts since then, but he's done incredibly well since he's been doing it, and he's now only 7.9 million as well. And a lot of people would have sold an Arsenal player. So if you are thinking about not free hitting in 32, he is a player you can maybe look to invest in now. Sarabia's next, then Watkins. Watkins has a very good season this season. Martinelli next, then Willock. Salah is next on the table. He's 6th on the table. Then Nunes, Darwin, Trossard, Diogo Jota, Wilson, Odegaard, and Son. Jesus, an interesting one. Both of us are thinking maybe we swerve free hit in 32. That's not definite yet, but Jesus is somebody, especially if you've sold an Arsenal player and you've got maybe a space up front for maybe a Tony going out and Jesus coming in. Is that something you've thought about?
He's an interesting one actually, because when I was looking at future plans. There's not that many strikers that are that appealing. I mean, just like you mentioned a minute ago when we were talking about Tony replacements, there's really not that many ones we can go to, because obviously Mitrovic, I mean, he's going to be suspended. We don't know how long for.
Yeah.
And their double's pretty awful. So Jesus, even though they've not got any doubles, he could be very, very interesting. He was always top of all the tables, wasn't he, for stats? He's top of this one as well. He took the penalty, but obviously Saka wasn't on the field. Yeah, he's a player I really, really like. He was very popular pre-season, the first few weeks, and then people really went off him. I had him myself. He was very frustrating. He seems to underperform his numbers quite heavily.
He absolutely battered Leicester, didn't he? When they won 4-1 or 4-0, whatever it was. And then since that, he kind of was just simmering all the time, wasn't he? But he came back with a bang this week.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, obviously that penalty definitely helped him. But he didn't quite make it to 60 minutes, did he? He was 59th minute club.
Yeah.
General. Yeah, I heard listened to that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be one that's interesting. He's interesting, but I guess I want to keep an eye on him. See, he needs to continue getting more minutes as well, because like I said, 59th minute sub, you really want him to be getting 80 minutes plus if possible.
I mean, he's their first choice striker though, isn't he? Like, as soon as he is 100% fit to play, which maybe he's just kind of getting a bit of match fitness back again, you expect him, his X minutes will be pretty high compared to everybody else there, won't they? So you'd feel confident that he's going to get those minutes moving forward, I guess. It's just, I guess the question is, if Tony does get his booking and you don't want to go with Haaland, do you go with someone like Jesus? But he doesn't have those doubles either.
I guess the one problem is there's still a lot of I know I said there's not many strikers, but at the same time, people want Haaland. They want to keep Kane for now, although I don't think that's something people want to keep long term. Watkins has been fantastic and still got some good fixtures. And then, like I said, Arsenal haven't got a double as well. So we probably will be looking at players like Isak, maybe Mitrovic if he's not suspended that long.
Yeah.
But I guess it's going to be finding a spot for him as well.
Yeah. No, I get it. Watkins is 3rd on this table. Like I said, he's had a really good year. I think he scored for 4 consecutive away games now, or something like that. He's having a great season. Obviously, he's on pens as well. He's just looking like a good asset to own, especially with the fact he's playing in the blank. Yeah,
no, he's brilliant. Honestly, I wasn't that excited about getting him in at first, and I'm excited to have him. I've even looked at him as, honestly, he could be potentially a captain option this week.
Yeah,
at home to Forest. Like, I think he genuinely is. Probably won't do it, but I mean, I think that's how highly I think of him. And then when I was looking again at if I get Haaland in next week, not blocking myself, like, I'm not going to sell Watkins.
No,
and I think that's why the Tony route seems to be the only one people are considering because of that, because of how well thought of he is.
I think that's right as well. I do think that's right. I mean, Tony's, we're saying all this as if he's going to get booked this week and then it's an easy option. But even if he doesn't, next week if he gets booked or the week after. You don't. I feel like this is the week to do it. But Watkins, when I was making the free hit team earlier on, he doesn't have the most amazing fixture in the blank, does he? I can't remember who it is. Is it Newcastle away?
That rings a bell. I feel like I've looked at these fixtures so many times
know,
now.
so have I.
Well,
I can't
like
remember
going
who
on
it is he's
FPL
got.
team.
That was the only thing. But to be honest, if you're investing in him now, to have him in the blank, I mean, he's not a bad player to own.
Actually, so it's away to Brentford, and obviously
That's
that Brighton game at the weekend has changed a lot of people's opinion on them because of how many shots they conceded.
But Brentford were away, weren't they? Like they're like Forest, aren't they? They're such a different team away.
But then like you said, Watkins has scored in every away game for ages. Villa, I think Villa have scored every goal under Emery as well. So
I did say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Salah next. Salah's your boy. Talk us through Salah. You obviously brought him in this week. Why did you bring him in? It was for a hit as well. Talk us through why we should own Salah now. Because I earmarked getting rid of Kane and getting Salah in for around 33. But talk to us about why it might be a good idea to get him in now.
Was just looking at players that I definitely want for the rest of the season. And I mean, Salah was literally top of the list. He was one I wild carded out, as many of us did when when Man United lost 7-0. And Salah, you got, 21 points?
Yeah.
I was really reluctant to not have him against Bournemouth. And we got very lucky as non-Salah owners that he didn't score the penalty. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he scored 6 game weeks in a row now. And he still what has he had? One penalty this season, which he's missed. So I think it was a no-brainer for me that I wanted Salah in my team. I wanted Salah more than Haaland, more than Bruno. You're smiling as well. Has Kane scored?
No, he hasn't.
No, okay. Were you just smiling because I was talking about Salah?
Yeah, I just love it. It's the time I see the most joy in your face. So I do like it though. Like I said, I think I really like the move that you made there to get him in, and obviously he scored against City, didn't he? And it was looking quite good at one point, and then he got booked 2 minutes later, and then obviously lost the clean sheet as well. So
why did he get booked when it seemed like the ref didn't want to book anyone?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was more than happy to book Salah. Yeah.
But I do like it. It's just whether I do it now, to be perfectly honest. But talking about, you got Darwin there as well. He didn't play this week, did he? He definitely didn't start. With Jota coming back and Gakpo there, it just looks a little bit kind of less secure now with Darwin, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Gakpo looked quite good, actually. I know Liverpool didn't look great outside the first 20 minutes. They were better in the first half, arguably. Yeah. And then they didn't really do any. They were awful in the second half. But yeah, I think that's another thing with Liverpool. There's no real half measures. I feel like you just go to Salah. I don't think I don't feel like you can try and cover Salah if that's a thing.
Yeah.
I know Trent was bad. Robertson, he got destroyed as well. But I still think there'd be popular options in 32 and in 34 as well. Because I think there's not many good defenders around at the moment. So while they're a premium price, I think they're going to be worth it. At least one of them anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I was looking at it again earlier and thinking, it's just Salah. Like, he's the only one I'd really want. Even in defence, like, if you're on the free hit, fair enough, double game week, like, go Trent, go Robbo. But it's just so much money for players that I have no confidence in. That's the problem. Like, whereas Salah, even though their season's what it is, I still have confidence in Salah. And the fact he's on pens and everything as well. But yeah, I think like you said, there's no half measures. If you're going to get Liverpool and you want that coverage, you just got to go Salah, haven't you?
Yeah, and I don't think the early sub was a worry. I mean, obviously he's fasting at the moment, but I think it was more just protecting him because they were getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it anyway, unless there was some comments by Klopp afterwards.
Did you see the guy that offered him water? Did you see that?
Oh no, I missed that.
He went on the bench and he gave everybody water and he gave Salah water and he went, "Oh, cheers," and then just put it down. I was like, yeah, bless him.
At least he's polite about it.
Yeah.
Just launch it at him.
I knocked together a bit of a free hit team in game week 32. So this is obviously there's going to be differences, and there Tony's in this as well. Like, he could be booked by then anyway, but he's home to Villa, so it's not too bad. Obviously, if he does get booked, he won't play, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But this is kind of just a knock-up of a kind of team you could have. This still had about 2-3 million in the bank, I think it was. So you could go even bigger. You could, change a player and get another Liverpool defender in instead of Darwin if you don't fancy him. But we've got Leno in goal, got Leeds at home. Zinchenko, I've got the triple up of Arsenal, so I've got Zinchenko, Saka and Jesus. I think Jesus is the one I would go for because he's going to be lonely owned. Then Trippier, who's got Spurs at home, and Trent, who's got Nottingham Forest at home. Then I've got Maddison, who's got Wolves at home. Salah, who's the captain, who's got Nottingham Forest at home. Eze, who I've got in there because Zaha got injured, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Eze almost scored that free hit kick. I think it came off Everson, didn't it, at the weekend? Who's got Everton at home. Southampton at home with Saka. Darwin. I don't think I would have Darwin personally, but he got Nottingham Forest at home. Jesus got Southampton at home, and then Tony, who's got Aston Villa at home. You could easily have Watkins in there. You could easily have Kane. I didn't like the idea of having Kane against like a Trippier and a Botman, but I think a few people might go for Newcastle there. And then it's got Bueno, Andreas Pereira, Botman, and Everson on the bench. I think if you look at the kind of teams we could get, I've got Zinchenko and Saka already. I've got Maddison already. I've got Tony already, but he could be, out by then. Double Newcastle there. A lot of teams are going to be quite close to this kind of group of players anyway. And the players you don't have are going to be so low owned. Like players like Eze, for instance, or another Liverpool player. It's an interesting free hit team, isn't it? It's an interesting team to build towards.
Yeah, I think actually, because I've looked at free hit, not just in 32, but also 34, 36, 37. I've looked at every single one.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're not going to have that many players different to what we expect the template to be.
Yeah.
Because there is still this core of players that people are going for because they play in the blank and they've got good doubles coming up. So I think the power of the free hit's not going to be that great. I mean, it looks pretty similar to a free hit teams that I've been looking at as well.
Yeah.
I think I had Kane in mine. I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember who Spurs have.
Well, Spurs have Newcastle away.
That was it. So
Yeah.
I think I had Kane in one, but
Yeah.
I could see the argument for Jesus at home to Southampton as well.
Yeah.
I'll go Gabriel over Zinchenko.
Yeah, I know you would. I know you would.
Very minor things.
Ben White's the goal scorer, mate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh.
Don't do that.
Sorry.
It's good for the people listening, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, and obviously Watkins isn't in this either. Like Watkins could easily be in there. Lots of people have Aston Villa defenders already. Do you know the biggest thing that I miss from this free hit is the City? I feel like City need to be playing. City are those real high upside, not many people are going to own them players. And I feel like if you want a free hit, you want to go big on a team like that. Whereas a lot of people are going to have Arsenal at the top of the league anyway. And it's the Liverpool boys that people are going to be able to get in. So I don't know.
And that's why when you look at free hit 34, you can cherry pick, like you said about the fixture congestion, you can cherry pick the City players you want. I mean, obviously you could still get it spectacularly wrong, but you can look at, people who tried to predict Man City teams. You can look at all the minutes and try and put together your best three. If you're finding it really difficult, then you could just plonk the legend Edison in as one of your three.
Exactly. Yeah.
But 34 does look a lot more exciting. However, I don't know about you, but if I'm building towards a 32 team, I'm probably going to be looking at one of these 5-2-3 formations or very similar. It's not going to be a 3-4-3, put it that way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And also, one of the biggest things I see here as well is that if you're free hitting in 32 and you're getting all those Liverpool players in then, you're probably not going to be getting Liverpool players in before that. And then in 33, you're probably going to be start to bring in, that's great English, Liverpool players again. You've only got one free transfer after your free hit. So I don't know, there's a lot of things that maybe now we're closer to it. People are thinking, is free hit 32 that good?
Well,
but I don't know, it does work for a lot of people's teams. That's the thing.
It's why I wanted to go for Salah this week as well, because I looked at future transfers and there was actually not a way I was going to be able to get like Salah and Trent in without moving for one of them now. And obviously there'd be people there that are like, I don't want to go for them. And that's fair enough. Maybe they're better with, spending their budget. Yeah. But I wanted the Liverpool assets in, not just for 32. I want them for 34 as well.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have them for both.
Yeah, it is. Someone's
unless you start bringing them in now.
Someone's just mentioned West Ham, by the way. Yeah, there's no West Ham in this at the moment. I could have had, Bowen, Aguard, maybe? I don't know. They don't scream to me that I wanted them, if I'm honest. I did love all these home fixtures as well. I thought the fixtures looked quite nice in this.
Or West Ham away at Bournemouth.
Yeah. I don't fancy that myself. They're
no,
really
I mean,
maybe
you could go for a Fabianski or something.
Yeah. I think Edison's the way to go. Guaranteed 2 fixtures. Always ends up with Edison. And what's Edison? What position does he play?
No, I'm just not doing it today. I'm just trying not to mention the G word too often. We didn't even mention that my goalkeeper got an assist this week.
No, I know.
And still got outscored by the other keeper on the... How does that happen?
Oh, no, I know. And I had Raya. I was loving life. Right, now, just very, very quickly before we move on to our bus teams, these are the best players based on their stats and based on their minutes per XGI non-penalty that still have at least one double game week coming up. Undav's at the top there. I think you can kind of discount him, to be perfectly honest. So's Welbeck, probably another one you can discount.
He's a Brighton now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. You can tell Joe made this table, can't you? And then we've got De Bruyne next, who is highlighted here as well. Interesting, by the way, later on down the table, it's probably about 7th, 8th, maybe 9th, is Salah. So Salah's obviously plays in the blank, and he's got double game weeks coming up, and he's high up on the tables, kind of building up that kind of argument to having him. But De Bruyne is next, and Alvarez after that. We haven't spoken about De Bruyne at all. Got a goal and assist. If Haaland isn't playing, and we're expecting Haaland's minutes to be reduced, is De Bruyne a better asset to own
than Salah?
Well, you're going to have to own him instead of somebody, aren't you? So let's say you still have Salah and you have De Bruyne. So you go cheaper up front, you don't have Kane, and you own someone like De Bruyne.
No. I think the thing is, obviously, this table is really useful, but it's XGI, isn't it? So De Bruyne 117 and then Salah 136. Something we know, and I haven't looked into this exactly, but I almost guarantee it, that Salah's XG will be most of his XGI, whereas XA will be most of De Bruyne's. That's traditionally how they line up. So obviously Salah's XGI is probably going to be more worthwhile because you get the goals, or you're more likely to get the goals than with De Bruyne. It is another thing that leans me towards like a free hit, either 34 or 37, is you could have a 1 week punt on a double for someone like De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'd definitely go for Salah. I know people went for De Bruyne in previous game weeks, and obviously he's started getting rotated every now and then. So, I mean, maybe you say if Haaland's rested, maybe De Bruyne will still get rested. But as part of a free hit, I think the upside is probably still worth it. I mean, definitely still worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, what if you were completely going with your convictions that Haaland wasn't going to play? Julian Alvarez at 6 million. He does so well when he plays. 3 starts, got 2 goals, 2 assists.
What's interesting is a couple of game weeks ago, I was thinking it's very, very hard to get reliable City assets in. Obviously, Grealish has put his hand up now.
Yeah.
If you were going through the remaining weeks, let's say without a free hit, you could genuinely have like Edison in goal. You could have Haaland up top.
Yeah.
You could put Alvarez in as your third striker. You could bench him.
Yeah.
Most weeks. And then maybe roll him out for the doubles and, cross your fingers. I genuinely don't think at his price, just 6 million.
Yeah.
He could be a very high upside, bench option. He could be a frustrating one, but I mean, that's a ridiculous price.
Yeah. You've mentioned there, by the way, Grealish. You tempted at all? He's really kicking on now, isn't he?
I mean, he did look very, very good.
Yeah.
He looked absolutely incredible. I mean, he stopped Salah getting a second attacking return, didn't he? And then goes at the other end of the pitch and creates a goal.
Yeah.
He'd be very tempting. I just don't think now's the time for City assets. I feel like I'll be waiting till after they blank.
Yeah.
I understand Haaland because I think Haaland, obviously, he's the talisman. There's a bit of fear about him. I wouldn't fear not having Grealish, for the next couple of game weeks. I mean, he might be a nice punt. Foden had his moment earlier in the season before the World Cup.
Yeah.
Mahrez had his after the World Cup. Maybe it's Grealish's time. And does he score enough goals?
Not really.
He wasn't even prolific in the Championship.
No, he was pretty prolific that year for Villa in the Prem, wasn't he?
Villa, yeah.
He
But
did
it
really
still
well
wasn't.
there, to be fair.
Yeah, he did
Got
well.
about
He did
10
well in
goals, I think,
FPL.
something like that.
It's not a prolific amount of goals that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think he's more of a kind of, I'm going to get you 10 goals and 10 assists in a season, isn't it? Like that kind of a
Yeah.
player.
Maybe win a couple of penalties. Yeah.
Yeah, he likes
Free kicks.
winning a foul, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the Brighton lads we've got here as well. McAllister's here, March is here. Matoma was just off this list as well. Having a ridiculous season. They've got the doubles coming up, but the fixtures are not nice coming up now. If you're free hitting in 32, it makes sense to hold on to them. I am toying with the idea of getting rid of some of them soon because they've got horrible fixtures coming up. I'm thinking of benching them in the next 2 fixtures anyway. Then they've got, game week 32 where they don't play. Are they sellable, or do you think just ride the wave still?
I think I'm going to ride the wave with mine. However, it is worth pointing. You make a really good point because it is a long way now until the next set of doubles. It's 34. So I think obviously last week everyone was looking at, I bring all these players in for a hit and then I'll just keep them to the end of the season. But yeah, it's a long way until those next set of doubles now.
Yeah.
So I do think you could hop off and then jump back on.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll end up doing it still. Maybe people will do it with the Stupinan as well. Although there's not many good defenders around at the moment.
No.
I could see it. I don't know about with the midfielders as much. I think Brighton are so good that I'm nervous if I bench Matoma away to Tottenham next week.
Yeah, I know.
And you look at those stats for McAllister, that's non-penalty stats as well.
Yeah.
So you pop those on top.
Yeah. No, I know. When he plays in that 10 role, his stats are absolutely ridiculous. It's just when he drops deep a little, every now and again, but he's been very good.
He still gets chances, even when, because I actually ended up watching quite a lot of that game, and he was playing quite deep, especially in the first half.
It did look tired, though, I thought.
Probably, and that was comments made today, wasn't it? That maybe, there's a risk with him. There's a risk with a couple of them that they're not going to play tomorrow, but we can't do anything about that now. And then if they don't play, they're going to be fresh for the weekend against Tottenham, who've just played tonight. So
yeah, very true. Right, let's have a look at our bus teams then. So this is
Kane
my bus
Haaland
team. No, not yet. So this is my team at the moment. So I got Kepa in goal. Then I've got Shaw, Trippier, and Estupinan. Then Maddison, Rashford, Matoma, Saka, with Watkins, who is my bus captain at the moment.
Oh, I didn't notice that when I said it earlier.
I know. With Tony and Kane. I don't know. Fancy it, mate. And then Raya, Botman, McAllister, and Zinchenko on the bench. My problem is I've got to bench one Brighton player. I've got to, because I cannot bench Maddison at home to Bournemouth, Rashford at home to Everton, Saka away to Liverpool.
No.
Watkins,
no,
I can't
you're not
bench.
doing that.
Exactly. Watkins is a high captaincy, debate. Tony at home to Newcastle, but then Tony could become Haaland or whoever it is, and Kane at home to Brighton. I can't bench any of those and play McAllister.
There's 2 ways you could. Well, the first and easy one would be if Tony gets suspended.
And then
but then, as we talked about, you might just end up buying Haaland.
Yeah.
I would. Oh, this sounds. Well, I'd play him ahead of Matoma.
Yeah.
But then you're benching Matoma. Maybe Maddison. I'm going to get hate for that.
Home to Bournemouth.
I'd genuinely consider it.
Oh no.
Why?
You're not going to hate from the chat tonight,
I guess Rogers has gone. I guess Rogers has gone now.
Oh, you can't. No, I'm sorry. There is no way I'm benching Maddison at home to Bournemouth. No way. Oh no! Right, stop the stream.
See you next week.
But yeah, but it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's like Matoma, I feel, is having the better season, but McAllister's on the pens. But to be honest, they're probably both going to be 2-3 pointers anyway. So
So I think they're going to score against Spurs. I think we've got 2 biases here though. You've captained Matoma this week and he scored. I've captained McAllister this week and he scored. So I think we're going to go our own ways on it. But I mean, McAllister, you saw the stats on the last table, non-penalty.
Yeah.
And McAllister was clear. It's funny because we were talking about, well, Seb was talking a lot about Matoma a few weeks ago when he put his tables together and Matoma was top of a lot of the stats.
Yeah.
He's now not putting up those numbers.
Yeah.
But he's still getting the points. So it's just interesting. It seems to be March and McAllister now putting up the numbers.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But if Tony
see how angry you are at Matoma after tomorrow night.
Otherwise, this is an easy roll. If I really want to keep Tony, or if if Tony doesn't get booked and all of a sudden, I don't want a Haaland or that, I could easily roll this as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with rolling it.
It's a very good team. I mean, you could genuinely, you could play Botman over a Stupinan. You could play McAllister over someone. You could play Zinchenko. I wouldn't feel awful about it. You could play Raya.
Yeah.
You've got 15 good players there.
Yeah. Let's have a look at your team. By the way, this is, as I was saying to you as well, so this is, I've got 9 for the blank already because I kept Zinchenko. So there's every chance that if I make a move, and I've got to decide this week, because if I'm not going to play the blank, if I'm not going to play the free hit in the blank, the move I need to make has to be a player that plays in the blank, really. So rolling would make sense still, but if I were to lose Tony because he was suspended, I'd move Tony down as somebody that plays in the blank, so on and so forth, basically.
And crucially, I almost don't want to say this, but I'm going to. I guess, like we said last week, you've got a goalkeeper that plays in Gameweek 32. Some people might have like Kepa and, I don't know, Ward or someone, someone that's not going to play, or Steele.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just hoping that Kepa keeps his place as well, because with a new manager comes in, you never know. Mendy could get his chance again. But obviously Raya's there, which is quite nice for me. And then looking at your team, Rich, this is your best team. Just talk us through it.
It's not loaded on my screen, although I do have my own team, so I can have a look. So I haven't got much money in the bank. I think it's about 0.8 in the bank.
Yeah.
I'd start Raya in goal, then Botman and Trippier, and Gabriel away to Liverpool. So I mean, the defenders are not great, but I've known this. I've resisted the urge for taking hits for Chilwell and then Shaw. So I knew my defenders wouldn't be great this week. I don't think any defenders are worth a hit, though.
I mean,
I could play Pinnock. I could play Zinchenko off the bench.
Just about to say, the legend Pinnock is on your bench as well.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe that. I can't believe I had him on my bench when everyone's bench boosting.
Oh, brilliant.
And I got the right, inverted commas, Brentford defender. I mean, I think my opinion on them all is they're all pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't be claiming genius because I had Pinnock, for example. That was funds.
Exactly. Saving 0.1.
Yeah. And then I've got Salah, home to Arsenal, Bruno, home to Everton. Got Rashford captain at the moment, home to Everton. I'm not sure about that. I need a bit of time to think. McAllister away at Spurs, Tony at home to Newcastle, Watkins home to Forest, and then Kane away to Bournemouth. And I've got, Mitoma, Zinchenko, Pinnock on the bench.
Kane home to Brighton.
Oh, who did I say? Bournemouth?
Yeah, away to Bournemouth, you said, yeah.
Oh, that's next week, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Kane's at home to Brighton. So, yeah, Rashford captain at the moment. I mean, I really think there's an argument to go. You could go Watkins, Salah, Kane. Could bring in Haaland and captain him.
Exactly. That's the other thing. Like, this is without any City in our team, and they're obviously away to Southampton, so it's a tough one. It's interesting how we obviously wildcard at the same time, and our teams look so similar. How quickly they've deviated away. Like, you've all of a sudden got Salah, Fernandes in your team. Obviously, like it's just how different they're looking already.
It's amazing how quick. I mean, I had the almost identical wildcard teams to a few people I know, like John Ballantyne, who's like 27th in the world.
Oh, just something ridiculous. Did you?
Yeah, just accidentally had a very similar team. Yeah. But no, but our teams that already look crazily different, because I bought in Salah, whereas he's bought in Bruno, and then I've done a hit to remove Saka.
Yeah.
So it takes 1 week for a very similar team to become very different, and a route and a ship strategy to become completely different. And I mean, over the last few weeks, that could make, it could be literally dozens and dozens of points difference.
Yeah, big time. Right, let's move on to some questions now then. We've got about 200 people in the chat, which is not too bad considering we do have a very big game on tonight. So let us know in the chat if you've got any questions for us. Obviously, we know that there are still some games to come in this game week, but it doesn't have to stop us looking forward, does it? So let us know, and we will answer as many.
You keep glancing over your shoulder. It's half time, isn't it?
It is, mate, yeah, but I can still check. It's like
Are you
a tick.
okay?
Yeah. Oh. In other news, we've just had a radioactive power plant open up across the road. Yeah.
Have you actually? Oh no, I got you. Got you. Dad joke.
Yeah, that was a really good joke. Right. We haven't got any questions coming in at the moment. We might be going early, mate.
Do you want me to ask you a question?
Oh, yes, please.
I haven't got one.
I thought you had one. Oh dear. I've got a question for you though.
Okay.
How does it feel not having Saka?
Do you know what? It's actually awful.
Yeah.
He was on wildcard. He was one of the only players I had value. He was literally the only player I had value tied up in,
Yeah.
and I've removed him for a hit. And that Lego Mane chart you brought up earlier, it shows that in game week 31,
Hmm.
Arsenal play West Ham, who've just come out of Europa League game against Ghent, and then
Yeah.
they've got the second tie a few days later as well. So I
Yeah.
think Arsenal are going to be playing against a possibly fatigued West Ham team.
Yeah.
Whereas Man United they're going to be coming off the game against, I can't remember who you're playing now,
Sevilla.
Sevilla. So you're going to have that their game in 31 is in the middle of that. I think it's Forest away. So
Mm.
I'd much rather have Saka than Bruno in 31, and obviously in the blank in 32. So I'm actually thinking I might reverse it in 31 if I've got a spare transfer.
Love it. Love it. Derek Knowles, do you think Man United have hit the wall?
For me,
Mm.
I
Well, no,
think it gets
that was to Seb.
yeah. It could have been for you. You need to answer this, but I always think Man United get overhyped and then it gets over exaggerated when you do badly.
Yeah.
As in, I feel like you won the cup, and it was all like, yes, best manager in the world. We got the best left back in the world. We got the best left winger in the world. We got the best central midfielder in the world. Then you lose a couple of games. It's like, oh, awful team. It's the same
Yeah.
as Solskjaer. I think
Yeah.
the truth is somewhere in between, and you're just a quite good, like no, better than quite good. You're a good team
Yeah.
who will have ups and downs.
I completely agree. Like it's the same with any team. If you lose a game in a weekend, all of a sudden you're absolutely terrible. We're not absolutely terrible. I think we've hit a bit of a wall in terms of playing against good teams. I think we don't know how to play against good teams at the moment, especially away from home. We don't have Casemiro at the moment, and I know that everybody goes, "Oh, he's only one player." He is genuinely integral to how we play under Ten Hag. And if we don't have him, we have no control. And when we don't have any control, Bruno drops back, and all we do is focus on counter-attacking football and that moment of special genius from one person. So yes, I feel like if we're playing against a really good team, we struggle. And obviously Newcastle are a very good team. They went up to third after beating us. And we do struggle against players like that. I don't think we've hit a wall. I don't think you should be selling all Man United players. I don't think it's anything like that. We've got some good fixtures coming up with double game weeks as well. So I wouldn't be selling in a hurry unless you needed to get rid of Bruno to get like a Salah or something like that. But Michael Scott says, if you had to bench one, who would you bench? Matoma or March? Well, I know what Rich's answer is.
Do you know what? I think that's quite tricky. I think I would bench March.
What?
No, I would bench March, but March put up very, very good numbers in the
March.
last game. Like when you compare it to Matoma, I do think March owners got unlucky.
I had such a dilemma about whether to go with McAllister or March this week because I had to bring one in. I just love March. His stats are so good every week. I don't know. I think I would probably bench Matoma. I think you're right. I think it's starting to look like Matoma's dipping slightly, and March and McAllister are starting to bring it up now. And I think I'd probably bench Matoma.
Thing is, Matoma keeps putting up the points. It's
how
such
have we
a
swapped
weird...
now? Earlier on, it was the other way around, and now we're going, oh no, I'd bench Matoma and you play him.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such an odd situation with those midfielders. Like I've never really seen anything like it, especially at their price. And the fact there's so many midfielders, we can't just have all three.
Yeah.
And we've not seen that week yet where they all blank. Or
No,
I can't remember a week where they all blanked. I don't think there is one for us.
Well, Matoma's literally got a return in the last 8 weeks or something, hasn't he? Historia Film says, who's the best captain for 32? Easy.
Oh, for 32?
Yeah.
Is that the Salah? That was a Salah week, wasn't it?
Yeah, home to Forest.
Yeah, 100% Salah.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I guess people will make an argument for Saka.
Yeah.
Maybe Jesus. But
yeah.
I think Salah for me.
Jim Hilkin says, if I have plunged to 2.8 million in overall rank, what's the best I can hope for?
I don't know what the gap is, as in how many points off you are.
Be a fair few.
I mean, I guess it depends how many chips you've got left, because it is really, really tight. I mean, I've never risen like this before, as in FPL, that is. Like I've gone like from 320k to 34k in literally 3 game weeks.
Yeah.
And that's that's like ridiculous. And I think it's only because it's so close.
Yeah.
So I don't know the points gap, but I think you can move fast.
You can move quite fast when you're down that low, can't you? I think in terms of what you should do, aim for 2 mil, and then if you get there, aim for 1.75, and then aim for 1.5, and just see how close you can get. Don't look at it as I want to get in the top 1 mil or anything silly like that. Just aim for a reasonable target, and then just keep trying to get those targets. Go on Live FPL, do it, don't they? They tell you how many points away you are from all the different things.
They do.
That might be quite good.
Do you know what? It's hard to aim for something though, if you see what I mean. As in, because we
Just
don't
get
really have
points,
control, do we?
Yeah, just get points. But
It's like, I
don't
just felt
panic,
like this
don't
season.
take loads of hits.
Yeah, I've been trying to get points all season and just could not. And
Yeah.
then suddenly started getting points. There's not
Smashed
always
it.
logic to it.
Yeah, smashed it. Catch Some says, should I bring in Trippier? I lost him after wildcard 24.
That's an interesting one because I was looking at the Newcastle fixtures earlier while I was sat on a train, because that's what I do. I sat on trains, and they're quite a mixed bag. They are quite a mixed bag. So, I mean, there's not many good defenders around. I think we mentioned that earlier. So, probably.
I think you should. Doubles coming up as well. Like every point he scores as well. Like I think I would.
The double's quite late, but it does follow some pretty decent enough fixtures anyway.
Yeah.
I've started looking though. Every time I look at like Villa now, like they got Villa away in 31. I used to think that was like a easy fixture, and now it's like, oh no.
No, definitely not.
I'm looking at that like it's Man City away or something.
Oh, last question from Heather. Rich, you're going to love Heather, because she said, who's the best goalkeeper to cover for game week 32? I won't be on free hit. De Gea is my main goalkeeper. You love a goalkeeper, Rich. Go on.
I do love a goalkeeper. But there's a lot of teams we're going to triple up on, because we're going to triple up on Arsenal. So we're not going to go Ramsdale. We're going to triple up on Liverpool. So we're not going to go Alisson, for example. I quite like your shout of Leno earlier. I thought that was quite interesting, because I think there'd be a lot of shots. Raya could be good. I mean, he's playing against Villa, who we mentioned is a tough fixture, but that amount of saves was quite impressive.
Yeah.
Although I did want to say on Raya, it seemed like, because we both got him in on wildcard, and he went about 2 or 3 weeks where he didn't make a single save.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he makes 11. So I don't think it's going to be a consistent thing that he does, actually.
No. He's a good goalkeeper, mine. He is a good goalkeeper.
Yeah, I'll give him that. He is a good goalkeeper, but he doesn't always get that save volume.
Yeah.
So I don't know, really. Guaita could be a decent shout. Home to Everton under Roy.
Yeah.
We mentioned Fabianski earlier away at Bournemouth. I think just have a bit of fun with it. It's random.
Yeah,
goalkeepers are random at the end of the day.
Yeah, they really are. Right, lovely stuff. Thanks so much for everybody that's joined us tonight. And like I said, thank you as well if you've been watching the game and you've also joined us, or if you are joining us in the morning and you're listening to it back. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope your arrows are green, and if they're not, we hope they turn green before the end. Rich, you can be happy so far to know that Kane has done nothing in 50 minutes. You're pretty much nailed on with a blank.
I'm so glad the stream's ending, because do you remember what I said last week?
What was that?
Well, I said Kane, the most he will score is 13 points, and I was terrified that he was sat in a hat trick, and you're saying Kane goal with a smug look on your face.
Could still happen. I hope you enjoyed yourself tonight, though, my mate.
Yeah, no, I did. And we're back next week, aren't we? Bank holiday Monday.
We are. We will definitely be on Monday. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for joining us. And may your arrows continue to be green, hopefully. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.